ready to get started turning on this vase. I'm hoping it'll all work out, but we'll see just how well the plan came out. All the rings glued together and all. Now it looks promising so far. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Let's get going on it. Let's do this thing. Okay, I'm just getting started by just generally roughing out the outside. Just, you know, kind of taking off all the roughness out of the segments and bringing it down to something sort of round. You know, taking out most all the glue and everything like that. Just, you know, roughing it down. I don't want to go too far to a finished surface yet, because I haven't done the inside, and you know, with this being a brand new design, if I go and finalize this shape and I go to the inside, I'm liable to interior diameter exceeding the exterior diameter and this thing can come flying apart with me. So I'm just roughing it out here, just kind of getting it round and sort of trued up and everything. So we're just gonna get it roughed on the outside, and then we'll move to the inside. I've already gone through with push cuts to kind of rough out the shape. Just coming back now also with some pull cuts, some paring cuts. I'm using my 5/8 bowl gouge, kind of like a skew, still rubbing the bevel just to remove a lot more material until I can get, you know, roughly the shape that I'm looking for. And then we'll get ready to work on the inside. I'm just doing the same thing, the very same thing here, just roughing it down. And this is a pretty steep undercut here that has to be made. But I'll do all of this work with a 5/8 gouge for now. And up under this top layer right here, I'll get in with a carbide scraper, a round scraper, and kind of smooth that up a little bit. But all the smoothing and finish work will come a little bit later. I've got to make sure that all my thicknesses and my diameters and all that were good and true before I actually try to finish it and destroy this whole piece. So we're just working on it all the way down into the bottom to see if I can get it shaped like my plan was. I sure hope so. I've got about, probably by the time I finished this project, I had probably 20 hours in it, thereabout. And that included the planning, but still, that's a lot of time to get a little too fast and explode your piece on the lathe. Just keeping on roughing. I'll probably leave it kind of like this. I'll get in there with my carbide tool and kind of scrape it on down. And this is all face grain cuts. They're pretty easy cuts to make if you can get past the vibration of the segments. But it's just control your tool and just work your tool. But these cuts are really good. It's a smooth cut. It's not like a bowl. for your in-grain, face grain, in-grain, face grain. This is really easy turning here. Alright, now we're getting ready to glue up the top section. And I had a almost a catastrophic mistake happen when I glued the top, the rim, and I put pressure on it. I had it in the center, but then all of a sudden, when I set the paint can on top of it, it moved. It didn't move enough to destroy the rim, but I ended up making it really thin. You can see how much it moves right here. So, but anyway, that was I didn't use a centering jig on it and all of that like I did the rest of the piece, and it moved on me. You have to be very careful of that. I should have taped it down with masking tape when I got it in the center, but I didn't, and it slid a little bit, probably a full 1/8 of an inch or so, maybe even a little bit more than that, but it worked out. That part of the plan was good. It was just my technique of putting it together didn't work out too well. And as you can see now, I'm kind of finalizing the design a little bit, or working on more shaping, because I did have about a 1/4 inch to play with in here, maybe even a little bit more, 5/16 maybe, to shape with. And you can see here that I have one ring that's slightly smaller than the others, or it's kind of out of true with the rest of the piece. So that was ring number 5, and I don't know if it was my calculations or cut pattern or what, but it made me had to kind of reshape this thing just a little bit so that it would work. We're just working on the outside now, and then once we get to the outside, we can tell how all of our thickness is all the way down, and I can finish up the inside. I went ahead and put up my steady rest too while I work on this rim, because it was bad out of center, and I didn't want to throw this thing off my lathe, so I just put the steady rest up. It held it nice and secure. Little scraping cuts around, just blending everything together nice and neatly. Now moving to the inside, and you'll see here how thin this thing gets. And I get this rim done, and down along that shoulder, but my battery died in the middle of this segment right here, and I didn't actually get all of the truing up and finish work on the inside, but I did finish it up to about a 1/4 inch wall thickness. The rim's getting thin. but I still have a ways to go with it. And I was actually getting worried that I was going to come through the side, but I didn't. The rim ended up about an 1/8 inch thick. Here I am, I'm just working on that shoulder on the inside, and my battery went dead, but I did get it all finished up nicely on the inside also. And here I am, I'm sanding on the inside. I have a stick with a piece of foam glued to it, and I use spray adhesive to mount the sandpaper onto it. And then I'll just heat that up with a hair dryer, and I can take that sandpaper off and put the next grit on. It works really well. It gets all the way into the bottom and sands the inside really good. Double checking all my thickness, and it's good. Off with the steady rest. Okay, now we can start working on finishing this thing, but look how thin that rim is. I'm going to sand all the way up to 600 grit, and the good thing with sanding a segmented piece like this is that you don't have to go back and sand with a grain, because you already are sanding with a grain. So that's a good thing. So we're just going to sand it all the way up to 600 grit. And I started this one at 150 because the surface was already pretty smooth. I didn't need a 60 grit or 80 grit, because you can damage that pine or Douglas fir, whatever that is that 2x4 was made out of. You can damage that with a really heavy grit like 60 or 80. So you don't have to use it, don't. Okay, so we're just going to start with our first coat of tung oil. I ended up putting three coats on here. I put a coat on, and then I'll wait for it to cure up. It takes about an hour, 30 minutes to an hour. Once it's cured up, I'll come back and I'll use steel wool on it before I put the next coat, and it really makes this thing shine. And the tung oil really brings the color out in that wood too. I love this type finish. I use tung oil and paste wax on a lot of different projects. I just like the finish that it gives. But this is my first coat of tung oil. I put it on pretty thick so it can kind of soak in and do what it's going to do. And then I'll use steel wool between each coat. Got a choo-choo train downtown. I don't know if you've heard it or not, but we have a lot of those. Okay, this was after the third coat of tung oil here. I'm just going back over it with steel wool. It's 4/0 steel wool. And basically I'm just knocking the sheen off of it, knocking all the glossiness off of it, getting prepared for the wax. This surface is just as slick as glass right now. Make sure everything's blown out before you start your wax. I just use Minwax paste finishing wax. And this first layer really soaked up a lot. I think it's the pine or the 2x4 wood that I had to keep going back to the can. But once that first coat's on there, the second coat and the third coat really comes out well. It doesn't take near as much for those two coats as it did the first. Making sure I got it all over the whole thing really well. And I've turned the lathe speed up to about 1,000 RPMs and to kind of help that wax soften up and get it everywhere it needs to get. And this is my first buffing. Yeah, this is my first buffing. You have to let this stuff cure about 20 minutes before you buff it. After that, I'll just use a clean paper towel or a shop towel and just buff it out. It doesn't take a lot of pressure to buff these. A lot of people think you really have to press hard to do it, but you really don't. If the finish is cured, if the wax is cured, then it'll buff out pretty nice. And then we go in for the second coat, and we'll get it buffed out. I use 3 coats of tung oil on this vase, and I also use 3 coats of wax. And you'll see the finish a little bit later, but it turned out nice. It turned out really nice. I really do like that finish. Tung oil and wax. Here's the buffing the second layer of wax, and I did finish the inside just around that shoulder. I didn't do anything else to the inside of the vase. It's unfinished except for the shoulder and the rim. But the finish is really starting to look nice now with 2 layers of wax. And I also went one more. Now I'm getting ready to cut off my waste block. And I just used my parting tool as far as I dare. And then I switched over to a hacksaw and cut it off the rest of the way. I will be getting another saw besides this hacksaw. That was work right there, boys. The waste block is maple, and it's pretty tough wood, and that hacksaw's got a metal cutting blade on it. It's a brand new hacksaw, and but it went through there. It finally got through. Alright, now my shop made centering jig that I built, or that I made, I drew it up in Google SketchUp and cut it out with my X-Carve, and it finds the dead center very well. I've seen these designed, but I didn't own one, and I needed one, so I just made it. Okay, I've got my vase jig in the lathe. I'm just going to cut a hole in this paper towel so that it doesn't mar up my finish on the mouth of the vase. Then we'll put the vase on. But if you notice, part of my waste block is still there. Well, there's a void up under that waste block, and I almost hit panic mode because my vase started trying to fly around as I started cutting and was getting a little bit deeper. Once I started getting through that waste block and the void behind it, everything just got weak, which you'll see here in just a second. And just started cutting on the foot, getting ready to shape the foot, and all on the inside, or on the very bottom. And right about here, I started kind of noticing it was a little weak, but it's about as thin as a sheet of paper right now. And everything just started getting really, really weak. So you can see how it busted through the bottom right there. Okay. But anyway, my solution was just to break that off and find the new center. I just found a new center up on my plug that was on the first layer. Found a new center on it and just remounted everything, and that worked out great. You see where I broke it out. Alright, now we'll finish this foot up and get this project completed. I just did this with my 1/2 inch bowl gouge. And I ended up scraping the bottom rim with a skew. I think the foot really turned out nice on this piece. It's real deep concave in there, and I think it looks really nice. Little scraping pass. Really smooth that up nice. I just brought the skew in to hit that bottom edge just a little bit, just to make sure I've got everything good and flat. Alright, now it's ready to come off, and I'll take that little center bit right there, I'll sand it down, and this thing will be finished. Well, that's it. That was the end of another project. 157 pieces in this vase. I think it turned out really nice. The plan worked out really well, except for one segment, one ring, and that was ring number 5. I'm going to have to go back and revisit that. I believe maybe I miscalculated or something, but the diameter was about 1/4 inch too small, which made me end up having to reshape just a little bit. This right here was not going to be such a sweeping curve. It was supposed to be sharper. But, you know, all in all, the vase turned out nice, and I really like it. I really like it. But, you know, now I can basically finalize this design. I'll change number 5, and I'll finalize this design, and I can use it from now on for, you know, and use, you know, more expensive wood or whatever. But I think that dabbling 2x4 looks pretty good. I really do. I like the way it looks. I don't know if it's pine or Douglas fir or what it is, but that thing just pops. I like it. About a what, a $4 or $5 2x4. But anyway, I had a blast with this project. It was a lot of fun, and I got to make sure, you know, my segmenting sled is still dead on, and it is. There's not any gaps in this anywhere, and I'll try to get some close-up some close-ups of it to show at the end of the video, so that maybe you can see that. But all the joints are good and tight, and this thing turned out really nice. I think it turned out almost just like the plan, except for that one ring, and that forced me to have to bring this curve a little bit sharper down this way and curve that out before I really wanted to. I wanted that to be a little bit more rounder, but you know, I know what I have to do now, and I can fix these plans. So I had a great time doing this. On my second video, people were asking about my segmenting sled. I do have a video on that. I'll leave in the description. You know, kind of how I did that. And with that, I'm gonna let you all go. I hope y'all have a happy Memorial Day. Think about our troops. Think about our soldiers here and abroad. Tell them thank you. Thank you for a job well done. And you know, well, I know it's hard being away from your family and stuff on the holidays and just being away. I was in there for 6 years myself, and I really respect all you guys. So with that, y'all have a happy Memorial Day. We'll see y'all down the road.